So after coming through this residential area, pretty nice residential area of Daly City, I have come to this park. It's probably the only park that I know of that's dedicated to a duel. The duels, of course, is where people took pistols and they paced off and they turned around, and whoever shot the other to death, they won the duel. That's how they solved political differences. This is the Broderick Terry duel site. It's in Daly City. It's a suburb of just a little south of San Francisco. And it's just this little green area, and they have a historical monument over here dedicated to that event. Now, this one happened in 1859. As you probably are aware if you're a student of history, Alexander Hamilton and Aaron Burr had a duel, and Alexander Hamilton, who was Secretary of the Treasury, was killed, and still the practice of dueling went on. This duel in 1859 is kind of what sparked public protests against such practices. I mean, it's kind of a drastic way to solve your political differences. Now, David Broderick was a U.S. Senator from California. David Terry was a former Chief Justice of the California State Supreme Court. David Terry was not an abolitionist. He was for slavery. He was originally from Texas. Broderick was against slavery. They were both Democrats, and they both decided that they were going to settle their political scores with this duel that happened over here in this ravine. This has been identified as the location. As you can tell, it's kind of a low spot here. I don't know why they chose this spot. The actual duel took place right here where this marker is. If you would have been out here in 1859, you would have seen two grown men shooting pistols towards one another. Of course, Broderick was a little bit slower. Wait a minute. This is not it. This is a marker telling us to go to the other marker. It's actually down this way. So we just went through a presidential election, and you know how verbally nasty it got between Biden and Trump. But back then, it took a little step farther. And think about it. One of you is going to die. David Broderick was a popular U.S. Senator. In fact, that's one reason why David Terry left the state of California for a time. He was kind of a villain. And there was this grand marker for him at the Laurel Hill Cemetery in San Francisco. And that gravesite, that whole cemetery's been uprooted and no longer exists. They had to replace all the bodies, but he had a pretty grand marker at the top of a hill. And we got some noisemaker up here. This is a pretty cool site up here. This is the location of the duel. We're going to see exactly where the men stood. Now, keep in mind, this was before the Civil War started by about 2 years. And I see the Native Sons of the Golden West, NSGW, is the one who put this marker up here. Let's read what it says. United States Senator David Broderick and California Chief Justice David S. Terry fought a duel on this ground in the early morning of Tuesday, September 13th, 1859. Broderick's firearm discharged prematurely into the ground, forcing him to stand while Terry shot and wounded him. He died 3 days later. The affair marked the end of dueling in California. It was the last notable duel in the United States. The public was largely revolted by what they perceived as an assassination of the anti-slavery Senator Broderick by the pro-slavery Terry, solidifying California's loyalty to the Union during the Civil War. Senator Broderick occupied the position marked by the pillar to the southeast, while Judge Terry stood at the position designated by the northwest pillar. Spectators occupied the hills to the north. They would have been up here. They wanted to see the action. This was erected as a Historic Landmarks Committee. Native Sons of the Golden West, 1917. Well, let's go over here and see. This is where Terry was. He was a villain. I visited his grave in Stockton, California. He was a strange character, I think. Very hot-headed guy. I don't know how they actually designated where these locations were. Like, somebody had to pass it on to somebody. And the shot was fired over here. And there's Broderick's marker right there. It's crazy to think that if I was here in 1859, the bullet would have passed right through me. I'm standing right between the two pillars where the shots were fired. In fact, I wonder if there's actually a bullet in the ground, since his gun misfired prematurely into the ground. And today, of course, there's houses overlooking this historical site. Probably the only reason why they haven't developed this is because it was a historical site. Imagine the scenery has not changed a lot since the time of the duel. Unfortunately, Senator Broderick did not survive this whole ordeal. Like I said, it's a really stupid way to settle your political disagreements, I believe. So I am shooting this within a couple of weeks of the shooting of the CEO of National Health Care, I think is what it was called, and that suspect's arrested. So two families, have been destroyed for the actions of one man. He decided to take a life. Of course, it took the victim's family and destroyed that, but also his life. His parents, I'm sure, are wondering what the hell happened here. A dumb way to try to solve problems in this country, if you ask me. I think Terry was somewhat of a bully, and I think he was on the wrong side of history if he was pro-slavery. So you really need to watch the video that I did about David Terry. David Terry got what was coming to him in Lathrop, California, when he actually tried to kill a Chief Justice of the Supreme Court in Lathrop at a train station. It was over a suit. He was representing his wife, who was a total nutcase, Sarah Hill, and she tried to sue another senator for some riches. The one that he tried to kill did not rule in his favor, in his wife's favor. He decided that he was going to kill him at the Lathrop train station. Well, the bodyguard of the Chief Justice took care of Mr. Terry, shot him dead on the site, and that's why he's buried in Stockton, California. Let me get an overview here of how it might have looked from this point up here. We are at the end of a golf course, and of course that guy's been making racket ever since I got here. After months of very public verbal abuse from Terry, Senator Broderick reached the boiling point that he felt needed to be addressed. The first attempt to stage a duel was made a few days earlier, but police intervened since dueling was against the law in San Francisco. So the men chose a secluded ravine near Lake Merced in San Mateo County. The weapons chosen were Belgian .58 caliber pistols. Terry was familiar with the pistol and had practiced with it before the duel, while Broderick did not. Senator Broderick won the coin toss to draw first. Both pistols had hair triggers, but the one in Broderick's hands were more delicately set than Terry's, so much that a jar might discharge it. Broderick reportedly fired into the ground, giving Terry a free shot directly into Broderick's chest. As Broderick fell to the ground, a spectator named Davis tried to charge at Terry with a pistol, claiming that it was outright murder. The mortally wounded Senator Broderick was taken to the home of friend Leonidas Haskell at the Presidio in San Francisco, where he died 3 days later on September 16, 1859. One of Broderick's last utterances was, quote, "They have killed me because I was opposed to slavery and a corrupt administration." After his death, Senator Broderick was treated as a hero and a martyr in the cause fighting against slavery. His funeral was one of the largest San Francisco had ever seen. He was buried at Lone Mountain Cemetery. Terry was later arrested but managed to escape prosecution for murder. So I'm standing up the hill a ways here where all the spectators were standing when they decided they want to come out and watch one of the men get shot and killed. It makes sense to have it in a ravine, merely for the fact that stray bullets are not going to go anywhere. There's hillsides all the way around. If you're the one wanting to watch somebody get shot, You want to be out of the line of fire, and they definitely would have been out of the line of fire up here, providing that these two public officials were good shots. But I don't know that I'd want to see somebody get shot. So that's got to wrap up this episode of History Hunters. I would appreciate it if you gave me some feedback. I'm curious if you had heard about this in history. Now, if you're a regular viewer of History Hunters, you probably do know about David Terry and some of his hot-headed moves that he made in his life. You may have even caught the video where I talked about the Duel in the past. This is my first time visiting this Duel site. I was kind of surprised that I had to come through this residential area because it didn't look like it was going anywhere. But this little sliver of land here in this ravine is dedicated to that historical event so long ago. I'm curious what you think. Do you think that we've come far in politics? Do you think things are about the same? Do you think things are more civil than they used to be? Does it really bother you? If you're curious to know what you think, leave us a comment, give us a thumbs up if you could, and subscribe to History Hunters if you haven't already. Thanks so much.